Hello everyone. Today the topic which we guys gonna study is mitral regurgitation. So what is meant by the regurgitation? The regurgitation means the malcoaptation of the valve leaflet which will lead to the leakage of blood to flow backward. In short, under normal circumstances, whenever there is a closure of the valve, by the closure of the valve we mean that the leaflet of the valve will align itself in such a way that there will be the closure of the valve and the blood will not flow backward. In regurgitation, the valve leaflet failed to align itself in a certain position, so due to the failure of this alignment, there will be a backflow of blood. So it is called as regurgitation. So what is mitral regurgitation? The mitral regurgitation mean when the dysregurgitation occur in mitral valve. The mitral valve is a valve between the left atrium and the left ventricle. So what happen in mitral regurgitation? To understand it, let's study the normal physiology of the heart. When the oxygenated blood reaches the left atrium, at this point of time the mitral valve will be closed and there will be a filling of left atrium. When the left atrium are filled enough, there will be increased pressure in left atrium and the mitral valve will open and the blood will pass from the left atrium toward the left ventricle. Then there will be enough filling of the left ventricle and then there will be the closure of the mitral valve and the ventricle will contract and it will pump blood forward through the aortic valve to reach the peripheral circulation. In mitral regurgitation, there is a failure of closure of the mitral valve during the left ventricular contraction. So when the left ventricle will contract, it will pass blood forward, but along with the forward flow, the blood will also be pushed backward toward the left atrium. Due to this backward flow of blood through the regurgitated mitral valve, there will be increased pressure in left atrium and the pulmonary system and the decreased blood flow and pressure in forward system such as left ventricle and the peripheral circulation. This mitral regurgitation manifests in two forms. The first one is an acute mitral regurgitation and the second one is the chronic mitral regurgitation. These two forms have a different pathophysiology. In acute mitral regurgitation, there is an abrupt elevation of left atrial pressure because when there is an acute mitral regurgitation, the atria has not developed a compliance. So due to normal compliance, there will be abrupt elevation of the left atrial pressure. As a result of it, there will be increased backflow into pulmonary circulation and decreased cardiac output and forward flow because most of the blood are regurgitating backward through the mitral valve. So in short, in acute mitral regurgitation, there will be increased backflow and decreased forward flow. This mitral regurgitation is caused by a wide variety of factors. The first one is the trauma or surgery. When a patient undergo valvotomy, there will be increased chances of mitral regurgitation. The second one is a subacute bacterial endocarditis. In subacute bacterial endocarditis, there is a perforation of mitral valve leaflet, so it will lead to increased risk of acute mitral regurgitation. The third one is an acute MI. The acute MI will lead to the rupture of the papillary muscle. And the last one is a spontaneous rupture of the chordae tendineae. These chordae tendineae are attached to the valve leaflet. So when there is a damage to the chordae tendineae, it will damage the valve leaflet, which will lead to the mitral regurgitation. After acute mitral regurgitation, now come toward the chronic mitral regurgitation. In chronic mitral regurgitation, there is a slow and gradual regurgitation of the blood from left ventricle to the left atrium through the mitral valve. So due to the gradual regurgitation, there will be the gradual elevation of left atrial pressure because when the process is growing slowly, the left atria will develop a compliance. So there will be the gradual elevation of left atrial pressure, which is in contradictory to the acute mitral regurgitation in which there is an abrupt elevation of left atrial pressure. This gradual elevation of the left atrial pressure will cause dilation of the left atrium and left ventricle to cope up with increased pressure system. As this process is going on, this will eventually lead to the left ventricle dysfunction due to the dilation of the left ventricle. Chronic mitral regurgitation is caused by a chronic pathologies such as mitral valve prolapse, rheumatic heart disease, congenital disease such as a Marfan syndrome or the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and a chronic connective tissue disease such as a rheumatoid arthritis and SLE. Now let's discuss the clinical feature. The patient with mitral regurgitation will present with breathlessness due to the pulmonary congestion, fatigue due to the low cardiac output, palpitation due to the atrial fibrillation, and acute pulmonary edema due to the accumulation of the blood in pulmonary system. After clinical presentation, now let's discuss the physical sign in mitral regurgitation. The first one is a pansystolic murmur, which is heard best at the apex of a heart at fifth intercostal space at mid-clavicular line. This pansystolic murmur in mitral regurgitation will radiate toward the axilla, and this radiation will sometimes accompanied with thrill. Pansystolic or the holosystolic murmur mean that the intensity will be same throughout the murmur. You guys can hear the pansystolic murmur now. One important thing which I like to highlight regarding the pan or the holosystolic murmur is that the pansystolic murmur occur in three diseases: tricuspid regurgitation, mitral regurgitation, and in VSD. The holosystolic or the pansystolic murmur of the mitral regurgitation is heard best at the apex or the fifth intercostal space at midclavicular line, and it is prominent on expiration and less on inspiration, and it will radiate toward the axilla, while the murmur of the tricuspid regurgitation are heard best at the left lower parasternal area, and there will be no radiation toward the axilla, and the murmur is prominent on inspiration and less on expiration. It is opposite of mitral regurgitation. And the last one is in VSD. In VSD, the pansystolic murmur will heard best as a systolic thrill in left parasternal area, and there will be no radiation of murmur to the axilla. Other than pansystolic and holosystolic murmur, the patient of mitral regurgitation will have soft S1 because the valve in mitral regurgitation does not close properly. Along with that, there will be apical S3 because of the rapid flow of blood through the mitral valve to the left ventricle. In short, the physical sign in mitral regurgitation is a pansystolic and holosystolic murmur, soft S1, and presence of S3 at apical area. Along with that, the apex beat in mitral regurgitation will be active and rocking, and there will be displaced apex beat due to the left ventricular dilation. This was all about the physical sign in mitral regurgitation. Now come toward the investigation. The first one is an echocardiography. The echocardiography is the initial investigation of choice, and on echocardiography we will see the dilated left atrium and ventricle along with structure abnormality. After echocardiography, we can also perform a Doppler echocardiography. The Doppler echocardiography will assess the degree of regurgitation. Apart from that, we can also perform ECG. The ECG will show the left atrial hypertrophy and atrial fibrillation. Last one is cardiac catheterization. We perform cardiac catheterization only when we are planning for some interventional procedure or surgery. So we can perform a cardiac catheterization. It was all about the investigation. Now let's discuss the management of mitral regurgitation. The patient of mitral regurgitation who will present with moderate severity will be treated medically with diuretics and vasodilator. The diuretics will treat the pulmonary congestion, and the vasodilator such as ACE inhibitor will be used to treat the systemic hypertension. Along with that, we can also use digoxin and anticoagulant if the patient develop atrial fibrillation secondary to mitral regurgitation. The medical therapy usually need follow-up every 6 months with echocardiogram. So when the echocardiogram will show that the patient condition is deteriorating or it is getting worse, so we can switch toward the surgical option. Surgical option is preferred when the ejection fraction fall below 55% and the ventricle dilate greater than 60 mm. So under these conditions, we prefer surgical option. Along with that, if there is a rupture of the papillary muscle or the chordae tendini in subacute bacterial endocarditis, in this condition we also prefer surgical option. In recent study, there is an exception to this guideline because in recent study, it is shows that the mitral valve repair is the treatment of choice for mitral regurgitation, even if the patient is asymptomatic, because it show a good result and it prevent the irreversible left ventricular damage. According to the recent guideline, when a patient presents with a mitral regurgitation, directly perform the mitral valve repair. It will cure the disease and will prevent the irreversible left ventricular damage. So it was all about the mitral regurgitation. If there is still any question, you guys can ask and stay tuned for more update.